Welcome back to the course as we dive into our second section, where you will learn all about mastering diagnostic coding for outpatient settings using the ICD-10-CM classification system. This topic is incredibly important because every single medical claim requires an accurate diagnosis code to explain the medical necessity of the visit to insurance companies. By understanding these concepts, you will build the confidence needed to tackle the official coding guidelines on your certification exam. I am thrilled to walk you through this section. So let us get ready to unlock the secrets of diagnostic coding together. The ICD-10-CM stands for the International Classification of Diseases. 10th revision. Clinical modification. And its primary purpose is to translate written medical conditions into standard alphanumeric codes in physician offices and outpatient clinics. These codes justify why a patient received care, which means your choice of code directly impacts whether a medical claim gets approved. It is important to know that this code set is updated every single year. So staying current with the rules is essential for your success as a certified coder. Every diagnostic code follows a specific layout that you must understand to navigate your code book successfully. An ICD-10-CM code always begins with a letter, which is followed by a number in the second position, and another number or letter in the third position. This initial three-character combination represents a general category of disease, such as a specific type of infection or respiratory illness. A three-character code can stand alone as a valid code only if there are no further subcategories underneath it in the tabular list. If a disease category needs more detail, a decimal point is placed after the third character, and additional characters are added to provide specificity. These extra characters can stretch the code out to 4, 5, or 6 digits, allowing you to capture precise information like the exact location of a disease, its severity, or whether it affects the left or right side of the body. In outpatient coding, you must always code to the highest level of specificity supported by the documentation, meaning you cannot use a shorter code if a longer, more detailed code is available. Certain chapters in the code book, especially the injury chapter, require a special 7th character extension to indicate the type of encounter. This 7th character is usually a letter, and the most common ones you will see on the exam are A, D, and S. The letter A stands for an initial encounter, which means the patient is receiving active treatment for a new injury. The letter D stands for a subsequent encounter, which is used for routine follow-up care during the healing phase, such as removing stitches or changing a cast. The letter S stands for sequela, which refers to a late effect or a permanent condition that has developed as a direct result of an old injury or illness that has already healed. Working with 7th characters introduces a common exam trap involving the placeholder character X. If a code requires a 7th character, but only has 4 or 5 characters naturally, you must use the letter X as a dummy placeholder to fill the empty spaces. This ensures that the crucial 7th character ends up in the correct 7th position, making the code legally valid. Finding the correct code requires a strict 2-step process that you must practice until it becomes second nature. First, you must always look up the main term of the patient's condition in the alphabetic index, which is located at the front of your codebook. Second, You must take the code provided by the index and verify it completely in the tabular list, which is organized numerically by chapters. A common mistake candidates make is pulling a code directly from the index without verifying it in the tabular section, which often leads to selecting an incomplete or incorrect code. When searching the alphabetic index, you need to identify the lead term, which is the noun describing the disease, illness, or injury itself. For example, if a doctor documents a fractured femur, the correct lead term to look up is fracture, not femur. If a patient has acute bronchitis, you would look up bronchitis as your main term, and then look for the subterm acute listed underneath it. Learning to identify the true clinical noun in a diagnostic statement will save you a massive amount of time during the timed exam. Once you flip to the tabular list to verify your code, you must read all the instructional notes surrounding that category to prevent compliance errors. The tabular list contains special notes like includes and excludes, which provide vital directions on how to use specific codes. An includes note gives examples of other similar conditions that fall under that same code number. Excludes notes, on the other hand, warn you that certain conditions cannot be coded using that specific selection and must be searched elsewhere. There are two distinct types of excludes notes, and understanding the difference between them is a highly tested concept on the exam. An excludes one note is a strict instruction that means not coded here, indicating that the two conditions cannot physically or logically coexist in the same patient at the same time. An excludes two note means not included here, which means that although the two conditions are separate, a patient can have both conditions at the same time, and you are permitted to code both if the documentation supports it. Outpatient coding has a very strict rule regarding uncertain diagnoses that differs completely from inpatient hospital coding. In a physician office setting, you must never code diagnoses that are documented as probable, suspected, questionable, or rule out. These uncertain conditions are not considered confirmed. So instead of coding the suspected disease, you must code the specific signs or symptoms that the patient is actively experiencing. This prevents unconfirmed serious illnesses from being permanently attached to a patient's medical insurance history. Chronic conditions are long-term illnesses that a patient manages over a long period, and they require careful attention from outpatient coders. You should code chronic conditions like hypertension, diabetes, or chronic kidney disease if they are actively managed, treated, or if they affect the provider's medical decision-making during the encounter. If a chronic condition does not affect the patient's care during that specific visit and is simply listed in their medical history, you should leave it off the current claim. Sometimes a patient will experience a sudden flare-up of a long-term condition, resulting in documentation of both an acute and a chronic form of the same disease. When separate codes exist in the tabular list for both the acute form and the chronic form, the official guidelines require you to use both codes. Furthermore, you must always sequence the acute code first on the claim, followed by the chronic code as a secondary diagnosis, to accurately show the severity of the current situation. Selecting the first listed diagnosis is one of the most critical steps in preparing an outpatient claim. The first listed diagnosis must be the primary condition that is chiefly responsible for the outpatient services provided during that specific encounter. If a patient comes in for a regular checkup but the doctor ends up diagnosing and treating a brand new illness during the visit. The new illness becomes the first listed diagnosis because it required the majority of the medical work. You will frequently use Z codes on the exam, which represent factors influencing health status and contact with health services. Z codes are not used for active illnesses or injuries, but rather for situations where a patient is seeking healthcare for a routine or preventative reason. Common examples include routine physical examinations, routine prenatal visits, vaccinations, or documenting a patient's personal history of a resolved cancer. Some Z codes can stand alone as the primary diagnosis, while others can only be used as secondary support codes, external cause codes, which begin with the letters versus W, X, and Y, are used to collect data on how an injury or poisoning occurred. These codes allow you to document the exact mechanism of an injury, such as a car accident or a fall, as well as the place where it happened and what activity the patient was doing. While external cause codes are rarely mandatory for payment, they are incredibly useful for workers' compensation claims, and you will definitely see them pop up on your certification exam. Coding for signs and symptoms is perfectly acceptable when a physician has not yet established a definitive, confirmed diagnosis by the end of the visit. Signs are objective findings that the doctor can observe, like a fever or a skin rash, while symptoms are subjective feelings reported by the patient, like pain or dizziness. If a patient presents with severe abdominal pain and the doctor orders lab tests to find the cause but sends the patient home without a final answer, you must code the abdominal pain as the primary diagnosis. However, you must avoid the common mistake of coding a symptom if that symptom is an inherent, expected part of a confirmed disease the patient has. For example, if a physician determines that a patient has acute appendicitis, you would only code the appendicitis and completely omit the code for abdominal pain, because abdominal pain is a standard symptom of appendicitis. Coding it separately is considered redundant and incorrect under official guidelines, and doing so will cost you points on the exam. To save space and streamline the process, the codebook contains combination codes that classify two distinct conditions within a single alphanumeric code. A combination code can link a disease with an associated secondary process, or it can link a primary disease with a common complication. A classic example is diabetes with diabetic retinopathy, where one single code captures both the underlying blood sugar disorder and the resulting eye damage. When a combination code exists, you must use it instead of trying to report two separate codes for each piece. Congratulations on completing this second section of our exam preparation course. And well done for conquering the world of diagnostic coding. Now that we have covered these essential guidelines, I highly encourage you to complete the attached practice test right away. Working through these practice questions will dramatically improve your memory retention and build your overall exam readiness by allowing you to apply these rules to realistic clinical scenarios. The practice test is included with this lesson to encourage your active learning. And once you finish it, we will naturally transition to our next section where we will begin exploring procedural coding with Captain.